doors open at 6 o'clock. Bell time is at 7:30. You can catch him alongside with fellow former guest Haley Shadows. I am joined with Black Rain. He's right here with me on the phone. What's going on, Black Rain?
How's it going?
I'm doing real good, man, and thank you for joining me on the show this evening, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
I've seen you wrestle several times, WCCW, and you have wrestled in UWF as well, Georgetown. But you're mostly known for being in UWF, for WCCW. That's your main home, and I got a lot of respect for you. And you're a talented wrestler, and you doing big things out there in Lawrenceburg, and I gotta say, man, you're doing big things right now, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been all over the place, you know, over my career. But lately I found my home at WCCW just because it's a good place. It's every week, and then they got a lot of good things happening down there.
So we'll get to more on WCCW in just a moment, but let's rewind. And how did your wrestling career overall got started?
I started training when I was actually 16. So I've been wrestling for it'll be 17 years, I guess, this year. So I basically grew up in wrestling, and I didn't start out like some of these guys in the backyard. I mean, when I say I started training, I actually started training as a professional wrestler. So it's basically I've been in it over half my life, I guess. So I mean, it's been a long journey, and it's took its toll on my body, of course, but that's expected.
I find it very interesting. You said you started your career at the age of 16, which I got to ask you, man, like, what was your parents' reaction when you tell them I'm going to start my wrestling career at the age of 16? I mean, a
Well,
lot of
they were supportive. They had to sign a waiver, of course, for me to train because I wasn't even an adult yet. So they supported me, and they actually they knew it was something I wanted to do. So they've always been supportive, and it's interesting. It's my mother still comes every week to watch me wrestle, so it's always been a support thing. They support me nonstop. So and that helps, especially. I mean, I was still in high school when I was training, and I couldn't tell people I was training to wrestle. I couldn't tell people what was going on, but I was sore. It was awful. And I mean, I would train, and then I would have to get up, and I would have to go to school the next day, and I'd wrestle. I'd have to go to school the next day. I mean, there was many times when I would be sitting in class and have bandages from barbed wire bat matches or
mm,
other matches I would have in Indiana because that's the only place I could wrestle before I was 18. So it was a crazy you know double life, I guess you could say.
well, let me just say this, Black Wayne, for you to be able to pull that off, to balance your education and your wrestling career, which you've now been on for a very long time. I mean, that just shows your commitment on both parts. I mean, obviously, sometimes people have to choose one over the other, but you, on the other hand, managed to pull it off.
Yeah, it was a battle a lot of times. Just trying to get up and go to school, and you didn't feel like doing it, but you had to, and that was one condition that I had. They said they will let you train to wrestle, let you start doing this as long as you continue with school and continue to go to school. So, and that's what I do. I mean, there would be times I wouldn't get home till 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and I would have to get up the next morning and go to school. I mean, it was hard sometimes, but it was something that I really wanted to do, and I was really passionate about it, and I still am, and I guess that's why I'm still going, and it takes a love, it's a love for wrestling, and it's a love for everything. It's something that it means a lot to me, to see things like this.
Well, I guess I can say that at least they still wanted you to focus on your education, and fortunately, things worked out for you and everyone else involved. And I mean, 16, 17 years later, you're still doing this,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's incredible. It just shows longevity, and yeah, you've had your share of pain and injuries, but you know that it comes with the territory. But for you to still do this for so long, um, that's saying something. So, um, do you remember your first uh wrestling match that you ever had, and if so, who was your opponent and what company did you work for?
It was for a company in Indiana. It was at a bingo hall. It was I actually had my first match. It was a few days after my 17th birthday is when I had my first match. So and it was against a guy from Mississippi. He still wrestles, as far as I know. He goes by Jagged Edge. I mean, he was a big, muscular, guy, and I was just a 17-year-old kid. So we all know how that outcome came. But it was interesting, and it was an eye opener, and then I kept going, and I wrestled basically every week. Um, when I was 17, I wrestled every week. So they had a show every Thursday night, I believe, something like that in Indiana. So I wrestled every week, and that was rare for a lot of folks because a lot of folks they'd wrestle once a month or something like that. But I would wrestle every single week, and uh, you know, just different things. And I would wrestle any chance I got. And then when I become 18, I could actually become a licensed wrestler in Kentucky. So then I got to wrestle 2 or 3 times a week, different promotions across the state, and man, it takes that, you got to have that experience in order to better yourself.
Well said, man. And obviously, I know you. You got a stable. You had with you once was with the Butcher. You have Haley Shadows. You had a couple of Zodiac as well. How did that stable came about? Was it your idea? Was it WCCW's idea? Exactly how did that stable came about?
Well, I've always, I guess, the later parts of Black Rain, I've always had some type of stable. So, I would have Zodiac has been around. Actually, a lot of people may or may not know, but we've teamed together more than most people. We teamed together for years, and that's when he was really taking off as Zodiac. And we teamed together in the MWA, and we teamed together in Salt River Wrestling, which was Glensboro. It's shut down now. But we teamed together. He was in my stable for a long time, and we've always had good chemistry. And then different companies and different things would always have different people in my stable. But this stable here was kind of always my idea. I had full control as far as who was in it and what we did and things like that. So it's and I always try to keep it different characters. And that kind of goes back to Kevin Sullivan when he had his stable of weird people and unique people that when they come out of the curtain, people are interested in them immediately. They want to know who this person is or what's up with this person. It's just the way it is. So it's interesting. I always try to a stable to have. They're always there. You can always pull different people from it and really better yourself.
That's definitely good to know. I mean, it's all about chemistry. It's all about bringing a different types of people that brought something different character wise. And the Butcher, he doesn't talk at all, but he'll still beat you up. You got the Zodiac with his body bags and the career that he's had. and you got Haley Shadows, the first lady. Uh, your stable definitely was a force to be reckoned with, and you battled some talent over the course of the last several years, and I gotta say your stable big time, man. Your stable was big time. You had some success, and from my understanding, I haven't been able to be at WCCW for a while, but it's just you and Haley now.
Yeah, the stable kind of split apart, and like most do, it's not going to last forever. And they kind of turned their back um, on us. So we kind of went our own way, and we're on the good side of things now. So, and I've rarely been a good guy. Usually I'm on the other end of the stick and causing havoc and stuff like that. But I've had the chance here to do it a couple of times, and always it's good to connect with the fans. But it's different. It puts a challenge to take the the Black Rain and to kind of sculpt him into something that the people will enjoy, and it's different, and I like it. It's definitely different from what I usually do.
Well, all I can say is, tons stuff like that. It takes time to adapt. It takes time to get used to. But I bet ever since you became a good guy, you get a lot of people in the audience out there have their face paint just like you, like yay, Black Rain,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, and that's something I started doing, and I hadn't done it before for whatever reason. But I'll paint people's faces before the shows and things like that, and I was kind of shocked at how many people kind of were drawn to that, and they want their face painted like mine or like Haley's, and the support's really been really good, and that's one thing that I always enjoy is to kind of get out there with the fans, and they're supportive of us, so it makes us feel that connection between the fans and the wrestlers.
Absolutely, man. I do have a question in the chat room. It comes from Andrew. He's a good friend of mine. He lives in Kentucky. He's seen you wrestle before as well. Um, and he wants to know who is your favorite wrestler from WWE, past or present. That's it.
I would say past. I always had a couple from WWE. Always Hulk Hogan, of course, but Junkyard Dog was always one of my favorites. That I followed his career from not only WWF but Louisiana and different places like that. So those are two that growing up I always kind of idolized, was Junkyard Dog and Hulk Hogan. Currently, it varies. I mean, now that I'm actually wrestling, it's a lot different. I don't really, follow anybody in particular, but there's a lot of guys that have a lot of talent that are up there, and it's a whole different breed from the past to the present. I mean, some of these guys today are they're unbelievable. Right? I mean, the things that they can do, and you can see how the sport of wrestling's evolved over the years.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it all started with, the heavyweights such as Hulk Hogan. When they get the main events, they get more opportunities. And nowadays, it's the Daniel Bryans, it's the Ring of Honor talent, it's those guys that gets the main event appeals. Like, they get more opportunities, and obviously, from at least from a wrestling fan standpoint, I mean, it has definitely changed when nowadays you don't necessarily have to be the biggest guy to be the most
Right.
appealing.
And you'll see, that's the way the sport evolves. You'll see, maybe 2 years from now, maybe they're back to big guys again, or maybe, 5 years from now they're doing this or doing that. It's just all kind of really what the fans want and what they what they go after and who they support and things like that. I mean, Daniel Bryan's a big star right now, and I mean, you'll kind of see where it's headed with some of these folks, and there's a whole lot of people that's within NXT that have a lot of talent. So, that it's going to be interesting to see how the evolution takes place in the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, you could go several different places. So, I mean, it's interesting to see how it does, because it's really kind of trends. It's almost like the fashion industry. You have certain trends, maybe this season it's this, or this season it's this. That's the same thing with wrestling. It's all basically the fundamentals, but then who or what is popular, it goes along with the trends.
That's a nice analogy. Fashion, it's about what's popping right now. I mean, what's going
Right.
on. So, obviously, you can catch Black Wayne at Wildcat Championship Wrestling Saturdays at the Hilltop Drive. You can go to the Wildcat Championship Wrestling Facebook fan page for all the details on that. From my understanding, WCCW, they about to have WWE legend Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He's going to be making an appearance. Again, you can go to the Facebook fan page for more info. But outside of WCCW, do you have any other upcoming shows you'd like to promote that you're going to be a part of?
Not really. Right now, I focus a lot of my time on WCCW just because it's a weekly thing. So I focus a lot of time there, and my career is winding down. So all this traveling around and going, 4 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours away from home, sometimes it's just a little more than I want to do now. I mean, when I was younger and younger in the sport, I'm still fairly young, but younger in the sport, that is, I didn't mind to ride in a car for 5 or 6 hours and go somewhere. Now it's just, and it's almost like you pick and choose where you want to go now. So right now I'm focused pretty much on WCCW. I'll take other things as they come. That's a weekly show, and a lot of interesting things going on there, and a lot of things coming in the future. The same night that we're having Brutus Beefcake, we got Rob Terry coming in from TNA. So that's a big show, and we try to do that. Santa tries to do that for people, and to bring in some of these stars, and they've never been in this region as much. So he tries to do that, and that's a good thing. It's good for the fans.
Absolutely, man. And everybody, again, check it out. Wildcat Championship Wrestling, Saturdays, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Bell time is at 7:30. Again, go to the Wildcat Championship Facebook fan page for all the details, including, like Black Wayne mentioned, former TNA star Bob Terry will be there, and WWE legend Brutus the Barber Beefcake will be having a meet and greet. He was at the Lexington Touring Comic Convention, from my understanding, last week. So yeah, he'll still be in the Kentucky area. So go, if you missed out on him at that convention last weekend, go to WCCW to get your picture taken and autograph and enjoy the experience. So support your local indie pro wrestling shows. And my last question for you, Black Wayne, considering you've been wrestling for a long time, what would your advice be to all the aspiring aspiring people that wants to be wrestlers? What would your advice be?
My advice would be to, you've got to have some sort of passion for what you do. So, the thing is, don't get into it for the wrong reason. Don't get into it thinking you're going to make millions of dollars. You could, but, you've got to have your heart where it needs to be. I would not recommend anybody getting into wrestling unless they are passionate about it, because it's not easy on your body. It'll take a horrible toll on your body quickly. and it's basically like being in a car wreck over and over again. So, if they're not ready for that kind of pain or that kind of dedication, or if they don't want to, maybe spend $2,000 on wrestling equipment, boots and tights and things like that. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just, hey, I'm going to go to this school and train to be a wrestler, and then that's what I'm going to do. No, there's a lot more to it. So they've got to have passion. And if you don't have the passion for it, then you're just wasting your time and you're wasting other people's time. And it's best just to go somewhere else and do something else. So you've got passion for it. If you don't have the passion and you're not really a fan of wrestling in the past, then you may not have as much success as others would that know about wrestling and have followed for years. So it all starts with passion.
Well said, man. Well said. And I want to thank you for joining me on the show this evening. And just congratulations overall just for still managed to wrestle for this long. And best of success goes out to you. And I thank you for your time for being on Triple Threat Wrestling Radio. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Like you said, they can go to on Facebook. If they search the Real Wildcat Championship Wrestling, they'll find them. Facebook page is listed a little weird because they had to do it that way, but they'll find us. They can find me on there. All kinds of things. They can follow us, and we post stuff quite frequently. One thing, shout out I did wanted to give is coming up pretty soon. We're starting the ladies division of WCCW. We're revamping that, so that's going to be good. Haley was announced as one of the first competitors in the tournament we're going to have, and then Maria won last week to become the tournament. So there's two people already named for the female tournament to name the first or the future female champion, not the first, but the next female champion. So that's something to look forward to.
Oh, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on that for sure. All-woman wrestling show coming up for WCCW.
Yeah, that'll be a tournament to crown the ladies champion. Right now the belt's vacant. And from what I understand, there's going to be ladies coming from all over the place. So it should be pretty interesting.